Welcome to the place where faith meets fire, where purpose doesn't wait for permission and comfort doesn't cancel calling. If you've been praying for clarity, searching for boldness, and wondering when to move, this channel is your answer. We're not here to sugarcoat the journey. We're here to shake your soul, stir your spirit, and push you to walk by faith, not fear. You'll hear truth that convicts, words that wake you up, and a call to stop surviving and start moving like God already gave you the green light. This is for the bold, the hungry, the obedient. If God said it, we walk in it. No more delay, no more doubt, no more waiting on applause to move in assignment. If you're ready to stop playing it safe and step into everything God called you to be, your home, you keep waiting for the whole plan to be laid out. You keep praying for the entire blueprint, thinking that once everything is clear, then you'll move, but I'm here to tell you, you don't need to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step in faith. That's all God is asking from you. One step, not the destination, not the entire route. Just one step forward. See, we've gotten it backwards. We think faith comes after we get confirmation, after we get the money, after the people applaud, after the environment is safe. But faith doesn't show up when the road is easy. It shows up when you choose to move even when you can't see how it's going to work out. Let me tell you something. Clarity is a luxury, but obedience is a command. You're standing at the edge of something you've prayed for, something you've dreamed of, but fear has built a fence around you. Fear of failing, fear of looking foolish, fear of what people will say if you step and stumble. But let me ask you, when do we start trusting the opinions of people more than the voice of God? You don't need another sign. You don't need another confirmation. God already gave you the word. He already gave you the whisper in the night, the stirring in your spirit, the conviction that won't let you sleep. That was your green light. That was your go. And now it's your turn to move. Not because you know where it's going, but because you know who's leading you. The problem is, too many of us are addicted to understanding. We want a full explanation before we take the risk. But God never promised explanations. He promised presence. He said, I'll be with you. That's the promise. That's the guarantee. And if He's with you, what more do you need? You keep asking God to light up the whole path, but He's only handing you a lamp for your feet. That means you won't see the next step until you take the one right in front of you. Trust is built in the motion. Confidence is built in the obedience. You want boldness. Start by being faithful with the small instruction you already received. Stop waiting on perfect conditions. Stop waiting until the fear disappears. Boldness doesn't come when fear is absent. It comes when you decide fear won't be your master anymore. Faith isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to move in spite of it. Let me make this plain. Some of you are stuck, not because God hasn't spoken, but because you're trying to negotiate with what He already made clear. You keep praying about the same thing over and over, not because you don't know the answer, but because you don't like the answer. You're asking for clarity when you should be walking in obedience. You're asking for peace when God is waiting for you to make the move. Let me tell you, progress is messy. Growth is uncomfortable, but God isn't calling you to comfort. He's calling you to purpose, and purpose never lives in the shallow end. You've got to step out, even when it feels like your foot won't find the ground. That first step, that's where miracles begin. Don't worry about how you'll get there. Don't worry about how it'll work out. Worry belongs to people who don't know who they're walking with. But you've got the Spirit of the living God walking beside you, guiding you, speaking to you, strengthening you. You're not alone. You've never been. So stop analyzing, stop delaying, stop guessing the voice that already told you go. It's time to shut the door on fear and step out in faith. The blessing isn't in the knowing, it's in the moving. You don't need all the lights green to leave the driveway. Just take the first step, boldly, confidently, prayerfully, and trust that the rest will meet you on the road. Because faith is built in the step, not the spotlight. Your calling isn't up for a vote. If God said it, Walk in it. That's the line right there. You don't need to open a poll. You don't need a panel of people to clap for it. You don't need to take a vote on your obedience, because what God has spoken over your life doesn't require the world's approval to become reality. Too many of us are waiting on someone else to validate what God already confirmed in private. You're holding back on the gift, the message, the business, the book, the vision, because somebody didn't like it, didn't clap for it, didn't endorse it. But hear me, the world didn't give you the assignment, so the world doesn't get to approve it. Your calling was tailor-made for your hands, and when God chose you, He didn't consult the crowd. He didn't ask your family, He didn't poll your friends, He didn't look for likes or retweets. He saw your heart. He saw your potential, He saw what no one else could see, and when He said, "That one right there, that's who I'm calling," that was enough. But here's what happens. We hear the call, but we doubt it because it didn't come with applause. We think if it's real, it'll come with a following. If it's real, it'll come with comfort, but your calling is rarely comfortable, and most times it'll look like you're walking alone before others see what God already placed in you. Let me ask you this. How long will you let the fear of rejection keep you from walking in obedience? How long will you keep hiding because the people around you can't comprehend what God whispered in your spirit? Some people aren't meant to understand your calling. They weren't in the room when God spoke. They didn't see the dream. They didn't hear the voice in the middle of the night that shook your soul. That wasn't for them. It was for you. So stop trying to get them to co-sign on something they were never invited into. Stop making your purpose democratic. Stop putting your anointing up for public opinion. You've got to get to a place where the only approval you need is the one you already have, from above. Because let me tell you, obedience will make you look crazy before it makes you look called. Purpose will make you walk into rooms where you don't feel qualified. But if God sent you, that's all the qualification you need. People will question it, let them. People will doubt it, let them. People will try to make you shrink to fit their comfort, but hear me clearly. You were not called to fit in, you were called to stand out. You were called to disrupt. You were called to carry something different, and you can't carry something different if you're always chasing what's common. There's a boldness required in this season, a holy confidence that says, I know who I am because I know who called me. Not arrogance, assignment. You're not moving because you think you're better. You're moving because you're chosen. And when you're chosen, you stop explaining yourself. You stop watering it down. You stop asking for permission to be what God already declared over your life. The reason you feel resistance isn't because you're off track, it's because you're on the right one. Don't mistake opposition for misdirection. Sometimes the pressure is proof you're walking in the right calling. So walk in it, even when it's heavy, even when it's lonely, even when it doesn't make sense to anybody else. Walk in it like you believe the God who called you is strong enough to carry you, because He is. He didn't call you to abandon you. He didn't bring you this far to leave you halfway. He's already gone ahead of you. All He's waiting for is your yes, so stop stalling, stop apologizing, stop questioning what's already been confirmed in your spirit. Step into your assignment and don't look back, because if God said it, walk in it. Comfort will convince you to stay where God only meant for you to pass through. That's the danger right there. You get a little peace, a little ease, and suddenly you start calling it home. But just because a place feels safe doesn't mean it's where you're supposed to settle. Don't build a house in a place meant to grow you, not keep you. Some of you have confused a pit stop with a destination. You were meant to gather strength there, learn something there, get sharpened there, but not stay. That relationship, that job, that city, that version of you, it was part of the process, but it was never meant to become your permanent address. Growth is uncomfortable, transition is messy, change feels like chaos when you're in the middle of it, but what if the pressure you're feeling isn't punishment, it's preparation? What if the reason you're so uncomfortable now is because you've outgrown the space you're in? See, comfort is seductive. It'll whisper to you, stay here, it's good enough. It'll tell you, why risk it when you've got stability? But the truth is, comfort is often the enemy of calling, because when you get too comfortable, you stop reaching. You stop praying like you used to. You stop dreaming bigger. You settle for routine when God's calling you into revelation. You weren't built to survive. You were built to thrive. And thriving doesn't happen in stuck places. Thriving happens when you're willing to move, even when it means walking away from what once served you. Let me say that again. What once served you can now suffocate you if you're not careful. There are seasons that were sent to stretch you, not sustain you. Places that were sent to teach you something, not hold you forever. Some of you are trying to decorate and settle into what was meant to be a hallway, not a home. And because it feels easier than the unknown ahead, you're calling it God's will, when really it's just your fear talking. I get it, moving forward is scary, leaving what's familiar is hard, but let me tell you, destiny lives outside the lines of comfort. Breakthrough doesn't come to people who choose easy. Breakthrough comes to people who trust God enough to move when everything in them wants to stay. You can't fulfill a divine calling with a comfort zone mindset. You can't carry purpose and fear at the same time. One's gotta go, and too many people miss what God is trying to do next because they're too busy clinging to what He did last. Let me ask you, what are you still holding on to because it's comfortable, not because it's right? What habits, what spaces, what labels have you accepted just because they're easier than becoming who God actually called you to be? Sometimes God will make your comfort so uncomfortable that you have no choice but to move. He'll close doors. He'll shift relationships. He'll stir your spirit, not because He's mad at you, but because He loves you too much to let you settle in a place that can't contain your purpose. You've got something inside of you that's too big for small spaces. You've got a calling that can't survive in average environments. And if you don't move, you'll shrink. If you don't move, you'll suffocate. If you don't move, you'll miss the very thing you've been praying for. Don't let the temporary comfort of a familiar place rob you of the permanent blessing of your next season. Don't build a life around something God only meant to use as a bridge. Bridges are made to walk across, not live on. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's uncertain. Yes, people will question your decision. But you have to choose progress over comfort. You have to choose movement over maintenance. Because every time you settle in a place God called you to pass through, you delay what's waiting on the other side of your obedience. It's time to pack up. Time to leave the familiar behind. Time to stop building walls where God only told you to pitch a tent. Because comfort might feel good, but calling will fulfill you. You prayed for direction, so why are you doubting the path? You asked God to speak. You asked Him to show you, guide you, open the door, and He did. But it didn't come with flashing lights. It didn't come with thunder. It came in silence, in stillness, in that quiet conviction deep in your spirit that you tried to brush off as just a thought. That moment where everything inside you knew the answer, even if nothing outside you confirmed it. God gave you the answer, but now you're hesitating, you're overthinking it, you're second-guessing yourself. Why? Because it didn't look the way you expected it to. Because it didn't come wrapped in certainty. But here's the truth. Boldness is your response, not hesitation. The moment you received peace about the decision, that was the green light. That was your moment to move, but now you're stalling. You're waiting for something more. A bigger sign, a louder voice, a crowd to agree, but let me tell you something. The confirmation wasn't meant to come from people. It came from the presence. It came from the one who knows the end from the beginning. You think God is going to keep repeating Himself just because you're scared to obey. No, He already spoke. He's not going to beg you to trust Him. That whisper in your heart, that clarity that came in the middle of the night, that moment when everything around you felt chaotic but your soul had peace, that was Him. You're asking for another sign, but it's not more confirmation you need, it's courage. You see, the moment we get the answer, fear shows up dressed as logic. Doubt walks in and tells us to wait, to slow down, to think it over again. But let me be real with you. Some of you are stuck, not because God hasn't spoken, but because you don't want to do what He said. You prayed for a door to open. He cracked it. And instead of walking through, you're sitting there checking the temperature, wondering if the timing is right, wondering if people will support you, wondering if it will be easy. But the path of purpose is never promised to be easy. It's promised to be worth it. You asked for direction, and now that you've got it, it's time to move like you trust the one who gave it to you. You don't need all the answers. You don't need to know how it ends. You just need to take the next right step. Every time you delay obedience, you give fear more room to talk. And fear is loud when faith is silent. So speak your faith louder. Walk it out louder. Show it with your actions. Don't say you trust God and then live like He didn't already make the way. The world's waiting on you to get it perfect. God's just waiting on you to get moving. Too many of us think we need full clarity before we act. But what if the clarity doesn't come until you move? What if the vision doesn't make sense until you're already walking in it? God isn't looking for people who have it all figured out. He's looking for people who will say yes and trust Him in the dark. Boldness isn't confidence in yourself. It's confidence in the one who called you. It's standing up when everything says sit down. It's walking forward when the crowd says stay back. It's answering the call without needing a crowd to clap for you. You prayed for guidance. You got it. Now walk like it, live like it, lead like it, create like it, speak like it. Don't keep asking God to repeat Himself just because fear got loud. The more you stall, the more you forget what He told you in the stillness. And the enemy loves that. He can't steal the calling, so he'll try to distract you from walking in it. This moment, it's not about waiting for something new. It's about doing something bold with what you already heard. You prayed for direction, so why are you doubting the path? Real trust sounds like obedience even when it's inconvenient, not when it's easy, not when it fits your schedule, not when it makes you look good. I'm talking about the kind of obedience that interrupts your comfort, rearranges your plans, and makes you question everything. Except God. We've gotten used to talking about faith, saying the right words, quoting the right verses, telling people we trust God, but talk is cheap. Faith doesn't live in your mouth. It shows up in motion, in what you do when nobody's looking, in the moves you make when it's hard. When it costs you something, that's where real trust lives. You say you believe, but are you willing to obey when it's inconvenient? Are you willing to let go of what you wanted so you can grab hold of what God said? Because trust isn't just a feeling. It's not about goosebumps during a prayer. Trust is action. Trust is walking even when your knees are shaking. Trust is saying yes when everything around you says not now. Some of the biggest moments of your life won't come with comfort. They'll come wrapped in uncertainty, wrapped in sacrifice, wrapped in silence, and in those moments, God is watching. He's not watching your words, He's watching your walk. Can you obey when it's inconvenient? When it hurts, when it's not popular, when it doesn't make sense, that's real trust. Look at your own life. Think about the prayers you've prayed. Think about the promises you've declared. You asked God to use you. You said you'd go where He sent you, but now that He's calling, you're checking the weather, checking your bank account, checking who's watching. But when did obedience ever depend on comfort? Every step of obedience might not feel good, but it is good. You may not understand it while you're in it, but God sees the bigger picture. You're just called to move, just called to trust, just called to respond, not negotiate. Some of us treat God's instructions like suggestions. We pick the ones that fit our life and ignore the ones that stretch us. But real trust doesn't skip the hard parts. Real trust doesn't delay obedience because it's inconvenient. Delayed obedience is just disguised disobedience. Let that sit with you. If you only follow God when it's easy, then you're not following. You're leading. You're trying to fit God into your plan instead of surrendering to His. And you can't claim to trust a God you keep putting on hold. That's not trust, that's control. Let me tell you, obedience will cost you. It'll cost you pride. It'll cost you comfort. It might even cost you relationships, but it will never cost you peace. Because when you obey, you step into alignment. And when you're in alignment, even the storm has purpose. You're looking for peace in your situation, but peace comes from your position. And the only position that brings lasting peace is obedience. Think about this. Every great move of God in Scripture started with someone saying yes, even when it didn't make sense. Build the ark before the rain. Step into the sea before it parts. Walk around the wall before it falls. Obedience always comes first. The miracle meets you in motion. You want the blessing, move in obedience. You want the breakthrough, move in obedience. You want the clarity, start walking. Faith isn't about everything being laid out perfectly. It's about trusting that even when it's not, God still is. He's still in control, still good, still leading, but He's not going to drag you. He's not going to force your hand. He's waiting for your yes. Your full yes, not your convenient yes. So ask yourself, am I living like I trust Him? Or am I just saying I do? Because if your faith doesn't move you, it won't move anything else. If your trust doesn't lead to action, then it's not trust. Real trust moves, real trust obeys. Real trust shows up even when it's inconvenient, because talk is cheap. Faith shows up in motion. When God gives the green light, don't wait for the world to catch up. Don't stand at the line looking back to see who's cheering. Don't wait for people to understand, support, or approve. If God said go, then go. Move when you're called, not when you're comfortable. Too many people miss their moment because they're standing still in fear, waiting for a perfect alignment of circumstances, waiting for a bigger sign, waiting for the money, waiting for someone else to validate what God already confirmed. But let me tell you something. Purpose doesn't need permission. When God gives you the word, that's all the confirmation you need. That green light might not come with claps. It might not come with company. But it comes with covering, and I'd rather move alone under God's covering than sit still surrounded by people who don't carry my calling. You see, the world is slow to catch on to what heaven already declared. People will always be late to recognize your calling. They'll question you, doubt you, maybe even mock you, but they weren't in the room when God gave you the assignment. They didn't hear what you heard. They didn't feel what you felt, and that's okay, because they weren't supposed to. The problem is, we've gotten too used to delaying destiny because we're waiting on comfort, waiting until we feel ready. But let me tell you, ready is a myth. Nobody feels ready to carry greatness. Nobody feels ready to step into something bigger than themselves. That's the point. God calls you out of your comfort zone, so you'll have to rely on Him, not yourself. You want the path to be smooth. You want the risk to disappear. But calling isn't about comfort, it's about obedience. And sometimes obedience looks like moving forward while your hands are still shaking. There are doors waiting for you to walk toward them, not when you feel brave, not when it's easy. Now, there are opportunities already unlocked, but you're standing still, checking with the world to see if it's time. And every time you do that, you delay your growth, you delay your breakthrough, you delay someone else's blessing because your obedience is tied to more than just you. You've been praying, fasting, asking God to speak. He spoke, He gave you the nudge, He stirred your spirit, He lit the fire, and now you're hesitating because the crowd hasn't caught up. But faith doesn't wait for applause. Faith doesn't check the temperature of public opinion. Faith moves. What God put in your spirit was real. That dream wasn't random. That idea didn't show up by accident. That burden, that passion, that conviction, that's not something you made up. That's the green light. And now that it's here, you've got to go. Stop asking for clarity about what God already made clear. Stop talking yourself out of the move. You don't need to rehearse the word. You need to respond to it. You don't need to explain yourself, you need to obey. Let me tell you, greatness isn't found in what you say you'll do someday. It's found in what you do right now, even when nobody else sees it yet. That business idea, launch it. That message in your heart, share it. That burden to move, to serve, to start over, trust it. Because there comes a time where waiting becomes disobedience. There comes a point where delay becomes denial. Not because God took it back, but because you were too afraid to take it forward. Comfort is a liar. It'll try to convince you that safe is smart. But faith has never been safe. Walking on water doesn't feel safe. Leaving everything behind doesn't feel safe. But it's necessary. It's where the miracle is. And you won't see it until you step. So don't let the world's timeline become your guide. Don't let their delay determine your destiny. You were called for this. You were built for this. You were chosen before you had an audience, before you had support, before you had clarity. God gave you the green light. Now move. Go when you're called, not when you're comfortable. If this message spoke to your spirit, don't just sit with it. Move with it. Drop a comment that says, "I've talked to God. I'm moving bold." Let the world know you're done waiting for perfect conditions. And listen, if you're serious about walking by faith, not sight, then this is your space. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment that could shift your mindset and your future. Remember, obedience isn't always comfortable, but it's always right. So walk in your calling, move even if your hands shake, and never ever wait for the world to catch up when heaven already said go. I'll see you in the next one, but don't just watch these videos. Live them.